6 o'clock sharp. So we are starting to record this absolutely historic second annual, we hope will not be the last, amazing collaborative and informative town hall with our county mayor, Daniella Levine Cava, who we're going to be thrilled to ask to speak in one moment. My name is Maria Meyer, honored to serve as the executive director of Your Women's Fund Miami-Dade, where we are indeed stronger together. This is a webinar. We will be promoting a few of you as panelists later on during the Q&A portion, but everyone here is important. We are all equally important. Please participate in the polls, participate in the exit survey afterwards. We are a women's fund who uses them, and we'll be sharing them with our community partners and with the mayor. We also ask you to be active in the chat and active in the Q&A. Going to go on to the next slide while you're answering that poll to give a moment of witness to the power of Miami-Dade County women and girls organizations that focus day in and day out on our community. All of these logos that you see are partners who are very specifically supporting this town hall this year. And there are many more who haven't even sent their logos. So you are with us, you are present, and you are here representatives. So thank you each and all. And we are going to go on to say, as the Women's Fund focuses a gender lens every day on women and girls in our community, we know that you do too as well, Madam Mayor. And we're going to ask you to focus that gender lens on your proposed county budget. And I'm going to let you take it away.
Thank you so much. What a great pleasure to be with everyone. I know you've had extraordinary response for this evening's event. And I want to say, yes, I'm here as your first woman mayor. Yay. But also we have a great group of county staff, leaders, and relevant fields on the call as well for resources. And you'll be hearing from Juan Visser, our Director of Engagement, shortly as well. So thank you so much to the Women's Fund, particularly for organizing this town hall, which you've done in years past. So this is a wonderful tradition that we've established together, and inviting so many of our community's fiercest leaders and advocates for women, girls, and families, just to name a few, because now I saw so many pages of logos. I know I'm leaving a lot of people out, but ahead of time I did notice LEAP, Be Strong, United Way, Santla, Pride Lines, the Children's Trust, and many, many others. So much of what our county does is, in fact, in service of our women and families, which is not usually pulled out in this way. So we've done a little bit of forensics to make sure that we could highlight some of those really good things for you. And we're particularly excited this year to name a few of the initiatives, some of which may be new to you because, of course, as the mayor, I have prioritized women, children, and families, as I have my entire career. We're supporting families from cradle to college and beyond. And this year's budget includes investments across the life cycle for families. Everything from childcare to making a college degree free for more of our eligible residents, helping for workforce programs, small businesses, and more. I also was really proud in the honor and name of Dr. Will Bleckman, who asked me on his deathbed to create the Blue Ribbon Children's Commission. And so with the help of so many and leadership from Diana Ragbeer, the commission met in May and then released, we met before May, but in May we released the first ever roadmap for child success. That is a joint effort of many, many child advocacy organizations. And it was really Old Home Week for me to have the opportunity to be together with them. Recommendations include promoting early learning through quality childcare, something we're funding in the proposed budget to the tune of $3 million to support an effort that is co-sponsored by our school system and the Children's Trust to help with the fiscal cliff for working families who could otherwise not afford childcare and cannot go back to work. And so we're hopeful that the state legislature is going to change that, as they did so well with Kid Care last session. But in the gap, we're adding that. that is added on to our longstanding role as lead in the Head Start and early Head Start programs, among others. We're also providing additional breastfeeding support. And together with the Board of County Commissioners, we officially proclaimed August National Breastfeeding Awareness Month. And we're very proud that we have nice little pods in our airport, apparently way ahead of the curve, and quite a few for nursing moms. And the Children's Commission also partnered with Breastfeed Miami and others to do in-person and digital outreach, especially in communities where there's disparities in breastfeeding rates. We are strengthening our partnerships with the Children's Trust, Miami-Dade County Public Schools, and other key collaborators, as I've already mentioned. And I want to underscore also the Miami Foundation, which has partnered with us through so many different opportunities. Thank you so much to Rebecca. If you're here, Rebecca, I don't know, and others from the Miami Foundation. And we are also working closely with Jewish Community Services of South Florida. Just today, we launched a shared platform that's administered through 211 and Jewish Community Services, a centralized place for information on after-school care, just like we did for summer camp. It was hugely successful. Just incredible. It started before this past summer with 200 people utilizing the website. And this year, I think it was 36,000, something incredible, just incredible. So we're obviously by working together, I quoted that famous quote, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that is truly what we demonstrated today with that kickoff platform for after-school programming throughout the county. Also, and it's called More After-School Choices, and it can be obtained access by calling the hotline, the 211, or by going online. And I don't have it right here, what that is, but I think it's after school. Miami-Dade County Public Schools / after school, I think so. But we also launched this summer a more comprehensive approach to drown proofing and swimming, and we call it our water safety campaign Splash. And it was also an opportunity to share resources across the county so that people could have better access after, as every year, we have tragic drownings, particularly of children, and we want to make swimming education and drown proofing available everywhere. And again, working together to make that so. And our lead person in the fire department actually was honored by the school board in a recent meeting because of those efforts. And we're continuing to invest in our nationally recognized juvenile services department under the leadership of Kathy Burgos. She has over the years, and Morris Copeland as well, now as our chief of community services. They have huge success rates, very low recidivism. They're focused on the front end. We've established what we call the no wrong door approach to serving at-risk and arrested youth. In fact, all of our social programming utilizes that no wrong door framework. And just as an example, our juvenile civil citation program served over 23,000 participants since April of 2007, 97% of which are from the minority communities, with an 83% success rate. So 83% success, very, very exciting, and nationally heralded and not so well known here at home. In fiscal year 2020 to 21, the recidivism rate was a mere 2%. Just unbelievable. We're also investing in our county workforce in ways that benefit women and families. We've converted positions from part-time to full-time in our county staff, our community action, human services, parks and recreation, and libraries. There were quite a few part-time positions. They've been converted to full-time with full benefits and paid sick leave. So that was a priority for me since I was commissioner, and we've been able to accomplish it since I've come into the mayor's office. Challenges that are specifically being addressed in this year's budget include teeing off the United Way's Alice report. We know almost 500,000 Miami-Dade households are either living in poverty or one emergency away from falling into poverty. We know that nearly 60% of our county's children lived in households below the ALICE threshold, with income that doesn't meet the basic costs of housing, childcare, healthcare, transportation, and phone access. And we understand, of course, that there are major affordability challenges. We declared an affordability housing crisis last April, and we've been addressing it actively since. Housing and transportation costs together are the most expensive in the entire country. Our median household incomes are lagging behind our peer counties. We're very proud of the ways in which in this year's proposed budget, we are creating affordability and opportunity for women and families. The county is doing our part along with all of you. And in a moment, Cassandra Arnold from our team, our Deputy Chief of Staff, will share more on the specifics. And finally, I'll share a few more notes about some of our higher level investments and priorities across the budget. Key priorities like our environment, housing, transportation, small business, opportunity for older adults, me too, for meals, for housing, for transportation to senior centers. And we're building on last year's historic tax cut. We're proposing again to provide relief to families that are struggling, to address the high cost of living with a 1% reduction in the countywide part of our tax. And we have our Chief Heat Officer, Jane Gilbert, hard at work. Many of you have worked closely with Jane on the heat campaign, and we're focusing particularly on the risk for pregnant women with the leadership of the Women's Fund. Thank you so much. So it's very important to me that women and girls are included in this budget process so that the final budget will reflect the issues that matter to all of us. We need your help to get this done. We're excited to be sharing with you tonight, but we want to make sure to let our Board of County Commissioners know what your concerns are and what you like in this budget. You can participate by attending our budget hearings on September 7th and 21st, starting at 5, but come a little early to sign up and get a place to sit. Please do come join and express hopefully what you think is good about this budget and anything you think we could do better, of course. Your voice and advocacy really do matter to all of us. And with your continued help, we're going to make sure that our women, our families, and our communities can truly thrive in Miami-Dade. Thank you so much for listening. And now I'm going to pass it on to Cassandra, one of many, many fierce, wonderful leaders on our team. Thank you.
No, thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I am so excited to join you this evening. I am Cassandra Arnold, one of the Deputy Chief of Staff for the Mayor, overseeing the Equity and Engagement portfolio. I want to thank the Mayor and the Women's Fund for always ensuring that our constituents are engaged, equipped, and empowered with the tools and resources to play an active role in this budget process. So let's begin. Let's unpack the county budget. For some, this is a refresher, and for others, this might be your first time. So I want to start off with a little bit of one-on-one on how the budget is structured at a high level, and then we'll get into some specific investments that we're excited about. So let's get into it. All right, so let's look at this pie. When we talk about our county's 11 billion plus proposed budget, it is important to know that that's made up of both capital and operating expenses. So let's look at the capital side first. The capital budget includes the development of our infrastructure, like the roads we drive on and the county facilities that we visit for services. Our operating budget, on the other hand, is how we fund the day-to-day operations of all of our county services, our amazing county services, I must add. That's everything from transit to water and sewer to our beautiful county parks that we enjoy on a regular basis. And that also includes funding our 30,000 plus staff who serve almost 3 million residents each and every day. Now, let's look at the cost of doing business, because we know that there's more to it, right? We know there's been increases throughout the last couple of years. For those who are keeping track, you'll see that this year's proposed budget totals $11.69 billion, which is a pretty big increase over last year's $10.4 billion budget. Our proposed operating budget of $7.2 billion is 8% higher than last year's, and our $4.4 billion proposed capital budget is 20% higher than last year's. I know that's a lot, right? That's a lot to dissect, and we're probably like, why is there a change? Well, let's talk a little bit about why that is. Well, the short answer is that the cost of doing business is higher now, as you can imagine, than it was last year or a year ago. Just as the cost of living has increased. I know we felt it all throughout, whether it's you're at the grocery store or whether you're at the mall. Well, our families are feeling it as well. And we're also seeing that it's more expensive to hire and retain people, purchase and maintain supplies, and to provide quality services than it was a year ago. But there are also some other specific costs that are either new to us this year or have increased. So let's talk about that. The first has to do with the 5 new constitutional offices that are rolling out in January 2025. In 2018, the great residents of Florida voters approved Amendment 10, which created fully independent and elected supervisor of elections, property appraiser, clerk, and tax collector, along with the transition to our first independent elected sheriff since the 1960s. So this coming year, we'll be working very hard to prepare for this transition so that when January 2025 comes, there are no services interruptions to you and your fellow residents, our constituents in many of these areas. The second reason is legislation that was passed by the state in the most recent session, which included new mandates that increase our operating costs to us by tens of millions of dollars, and that did not come with additional funding to cover them. And lastly, we all know that our infrastructure needs are major. We see it every single day as we're driving on roads, as we're taking different forms of transportation. Well, our capital budget is increasing by about $800 million to cover increased spending on major priority projects, including approximately $200 million on transit corridors, but also other costs to address deferred maintenance. We need to make improvements and repairs to our housing, transportation, water, waste, and other infrastructure. And we are making these investments so that we don't pass the buck to people down the line. And this budget does just that. All right, now let's look at the rescue plan, the pie chart, right? Our first 2 budget years coincided with some of the worst impacts of COVID-19 pandemic. We all felt it in some way, shape, or form, which meant that we also benefited from flexible federal revenues that were made available to us through the American Rescue Plan, also known as ARPA. We use these funds to continue our county services, fund infrastructure projects, deliver economic and social impact, and advance district-specific projects with our 13 commissioners. And as many of you know, we also dedicated a sizable portion of these funds to supporting community-based organizations, doing critical, important work during the pandemic via one-time funding allocations. Well, now let's look at today. What does that look like today? Well, as we move into the next budget year, these funds have largely been spent, and remaining funds are mostly in our infrastructure projects category. For more information, you can read about our proposed allocations for this coming year in Volume 1 of the proposed budget books in Appendix Z. Let's continue to move on. So as the mayor shared, we're proud of this proposed budget. It's people-centered, it's compassionate, it includes the voice of residents from all throughout, and we believe that it reflects the community needs and priorities that we have heard through our engagement over the last several years. We're also working every year tirelessly through forums like these and many others, and the budget materials that we put out, of course, to explain our budget in a more clear and accessible way, and to bring the community into the process. That's what this meeting is all about, and we're committed to doing even more next year. Okay, now let's look into some details. I'm going to spend the next few minutes highlighting the investments in women and families, one of my favorite parts of this presentation, and what we're doing in the proposed budget, and then we'll get into some discussion. As the mayor put in the beginning, we're proposing a future-ready budget that prioritizes affordability and opportunity for women and families. And here's a couple of ways we're doing that. Let's talk about childcare. something that's important to many new parents and existing parents, right? For starters, we know that access to childcare is extremely important factor in the ability of mothers, fathers, and caregivers to be active and full participants in our workforce. And we know that Alice households experience this most acutely. That's why we're investing $3 million in this proposed budget to expand childcare and to bring affordability and access to opportunity to more women and families across our county. We're also continuing our deep investment in Head Start and Early Head Start with $83 million secured this year to provide essential, no-cost wraparound services, not just to children 0 and 5 years old, but also to their families. As a newborn, as a new parent, this is so important. And I know that so many of us can relate to the different challenges and the access to programs. So this includes full day, high quality educational programs, support services for children with special needs, free breakfast, lunch and snack, parenting curriculum, employment assistance and training for families, and many other benefits. This proposed budget includes over 1,200 Head Start and 6,000 early Head Start slots. Now let's look at what we're doing across the board from cradle to college, which includes our continued support for youth internships. Our Fit to Lead program, shown here, as you can see in the picture, offers living wage summer and school year jobs to hundreds of young people across our county. Very important and very critical. And through our Peace and Prosperity Plan, which continues this year with funding from Kasaya Arena naming rights, we are focusing these investments in the communities most directly impacted by gun violence. And our partnership with Miami-Dade County Public Schools, Career Source, the Children's Trust, and the Educational Federal Credit Union and Foundation, we are also supporting another 2,000 plus paid internship opportunities for high school students through our summer youth internship program. Now, something I'm also passionate about, degrees, right? The access for someone to pursue a college degree. And that is what we're supporting for young people and families throughout, with investments to make college accessible for all youth. This year, we are investing $750,000 to make associate degrees at Miami-Dade College free for eligible families that need this support. This is in addition to scholarships that we have previously made available through our Peace and Prosperity Plan and through other programs in our Community Action and Human Services Department. Let's look at workforce. Our workforce development efforts, led by our Chief of Innovation and Economic Development, Chessie de Casada, Kobe, I was intently making sure that I said it correctly, includes plans that will improve outcomes and specifically target Alice households to ensure that we are building a future-ready economy that creates opportunities for all. We'll be sharing more about these plans in the coming weeks and months. Looking at housing. Well, our proposed budget recognizes that a large majority of the typical household income goes to housing and transportation costs. And this is especially true for Alice families. Since the start over this administration, we have completed over 3,000, listen here, 3,000 affordable housing units and over 170 home ownership assistance loans. And most of the affordable rental units completed during that period, 94%, are affordable to very low and low income residents. Right now, we have 58 multifamily developments with direct county funding in the pipeline. And our budget doesn't just focus on expanding the supply of housing, but also includes continued investment in protecting residents by growing the Office of Housing Advocacy. In the last budget, we more than doubled the size of the office and have engaged over 6,700 residents with referrals, guidance, and other forms of assistance. Let's look at transportation. Along these housing investments, we are also building a more future-ready transportation system for all. This includes major capital investments to implement our smart corridors, including the South Corridor, North Corridor, Northeast Corridor, East-West Corridor, and Beach Corridor, also known as Baylink. And our Better Bus network is being implemented as we speak. In partnership with Transit Alliance, we began rolling out the first realignment of our bus network in decades this summer, and we'll have a full launch in November. With an over $6 million in the proposed budget, we will implement the network and be able to provide faster, more frequent, and more reliable service across the county. A huge investment for our bus system. You hear me? A major investment for our bus system, the backbone of our transit network. And as the mayor liked to say, whenever she's out and about, we're still actively hiring bus operators like the lovely lady shown here. So if you're interested in being a bus operator, look us up. We will train you, give you a sign-up bonus, and give you a quality county job. All right, y'all, let's go over some other adjustments being made in this year's proposed budget, and then we can pivot into our conversation. As we all know, property taxes are a significant revenue source for our government, and each year the county and its municipalities decide on their millage rates or tax rates for next year. On the right, you can see our millage rates for this current year, 2022 to 2023, and proposed ones for next year. Here in the county, we all pay the countywide operating millage. Fire, rescue, and libraries have their own operating millages, and those who live in unincorporated Miami-Dade, also known as UMSA, pay a separate millage to fund services that the county provides them with. Last year, we rolled out the lowest combined rate since 1982 to support families deal with record inflation. And this year, we are proposing a 1% reduction to just the countywide operating millage to continue to provide release. We also want to mention, however, a few recommended increases to user fees that are not shown on this slide, but that we believe are necessary to address deferred maintenance and other needed infrastructure improvements. These include retail water and wastewater fees, which are proposed to be increased by 4%, and household residential solid waste collection fees, which are proposed to be increased by 7.0%. So what's next? We're hopeful that with this information we're providing you with tonight, and hope to share more of it in our Q&A, that you'll be able to better engage in our proposed budget. And I want to share just a few more ways to do that. Well, first, we're not done with our engagement just yet. We're always engaging and out in the community doing outreach. For example, last year, as you'll see in that picture, the mayor and our team were in Miami Gardens listening to our community in North Dade as they asked questions about the budget and made recommendations to us on it. Remember the budget?
Sandra, that was last night. You said last year.
Oh, I apologize. I thought I said last night. That
Yeah.
lets you know. No, it was definitely last night, for sure. Last night, we were at the Senior Center in Miami Gardens. So as we know, the budget is still proposed and not final until the Board of County Commissioners vote in September. We have 2 more conversations with Cava and Cutler Bay and Westchester in September, and we hope you'll join us. But it's also super important that the commissioners also hear your thoughts, ideas, and support for this budget. If you like what you heard or have additional input that you want to give to the commission as they get ready to vote on the proposed budget, please make sure to come to the formal budget hearings on September 7th and 21st in the Government Center and arrive early. We want to make sure that you get a seat. So arrive around 4 p.m. to sign up to be a speaker. With your support, we will get this this budget passed, and make sure that women and families are included in this budget. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it back to our amazing Women's Fund to lead us into the next part of our agenda. But thank you again for being here with us.
We thank you, Cassandra, Madam Mayor. We have lots of people who have lots of questions for you. I'm going to ask our team to promote some of the first ones that we know. Carrie Ann Royce, I know, is in the house, Samaria Hudson and others, and I will call on them. And then when you're done asking your questions, ladies, after the mayor is done answering your questions, then we will put you back in the audience with the participants. How does that sound, Madam Mayor?
That's great. And we also have wonderful county staff on it, so it won't only be me giving responses. If it's okay.
Wonderful. Whoever you decide that you would like us to elevate to panelist or to spotlight, you just tell us what to do, fearless leader, please. So I'm going to ask, there we are. YWCA South Florida CEO Carrie Ann Royce, welcome, and please take it away.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Madam Mayor, again for hosting this. As a woman among women, the first thing I have to say is, can I please have that pin? That is gorgeous. Right? I love it. And that's the first thing I saw, gorgeous pin. Thank you for having us here this evening once again. And I have to tell you, at first I had a question about early education, but after that presentation, I do not have a question about early education. It is clear that the county understands that the most critical costs for working women, single heads of household in Miami-Dade County is the cost of housing, the cost of transportation, and the cost of childcare. So I would just like to give a shout out and a thank you for explaining to us what in this budget has been dedicated to the cost of childcare for the expanded $3 million for accessibility. And again, to shout out to Community Action and Human Services for once again securing over $80 million worth of funding for early Head Start and Head Start, which we are one of the delegate agencies. So giving crazy shout out for that. When we talk about 7,200 families, we're really, no, 7,200 slots. We're really talking about over 15,000 families, because it's their parents, it's their grandparents, it's their brothers and sisters. It's not just the kids in the classroom. So that number 7,200 doesn't even tell the story of the impact of those dollars. So I just wanted to raise that up because it was really clear to me. I wanted to know where that was reflected in the budget. And I think the team did a great job of that. And I will see you on September 7th.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Carrie Ann.
Thank you, Carrie Ann. Samaria Hudson, we are so thrilled to have you with us this evening. Welcome to the United Way.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you so much. Well, good evening, Madam Mayor, and thank you so much for your budget, the presentation, and also for Cassandra. You did such an amazing job. It is very clear, Madam Mayor, that you are very familiar with our ALICE population and the challenges and the opportunities that lie ahead. You mentioned the work that we're doing around job training and readiness. Do we have specific dollars that are allocated in the budget to help support that? Early childhood education is really important, but we also have to make sure that the health of the parents and the families are there in order to give that support to their children. And certainly job training, to be able to allow people to go into new opportunities and new skills, is really important. Is there something allocated in the budget to help support that work and that effort?
Well, thank you so much, Samaria, for everything you're doing. And of course, we're partnering with the United Way on a specific workforce program having to do with bus drivers.
That's right. Yes, ma'am. You are. Yeah.
Commercial license. And I do want to point out that one of the groups that can really benefit from this are returning citizens. So just need a valid driver's license, and then we can train for the commercial portion. And our bus drivers are very friendly, very engaged. We're featuring them and recently we hired someone who'd come through a training program from Lotus House. So a wonderful young lady that we featured. So these are really important opportunities, doorways for women and men to get into county government. We don't, as a county per se, have a pot allocated to workforce training. We work collectively with CareerSource, with Transition, with LEAP, many other organizations. But what we do is recruit. We recruit like mad. So we have a 30,000 person workforce. And I pushed really hard because we're in a competitive environment to do quicker hiring processes. So we're doing on the spot hiring and also second chance work job fairs. And we apparently have offered 1,000 jobs in on the spot hiring. So that's the gamut of our departments. So mention bus operators because we're particularly keen to make sure we can get the better bus network, which is a real improvement in our public transit system going, which we need the operators to do. But corrections, goodness, I know I'm going to forget, animal services, parks, many departments are hiring on an ongoing basis, and we are looking flexibly. We're eliminating requirements that might not be necessary anymore. For example, we had college requirements, and now sometimes that's optional, and experience can replace it. We're actually working with Miami-Dade College to look at all of our standard criteria for different positions and seeing where we can be more flexible so we can bring more people in. We also, under something I did as a commissioner, we have a ban the box. So you don't get asked about your criminal record in the final phase of your job offer. And then it's really in case there is a particular restriction, for example, working with children or some such, there may be particular categories that prohibit your employment for those jobs. But so we've done what we can with our own hiring. We are a major employer, obviously one of the largest in the county. But through our new Office of Innovation and Economic Development, headed by Chessie de Quesada Covey, she was mentioned earlier by Cassandra, did such a great job with her name. So Francesca, also known as Chessie, we have brought on William Porro as part of the team, and he is our workforce lead. I've known him for 30 years, and he was doing that work in a leadership role in the city of Miami, and we're bringing many new features, working with I mean, I don't even want to reveal all of the things we're going to roll out in a big way. So we're working with the community and in conjunction with the school system to, and it was mentioned, these summer jobs and internships, these things are critical for jobs. So we really have put money and time, and we have extensive internship and summer jobs in the county as well to put people on that path. We want to be sure through our future ready economic development plan that our residents are getting access to these good jobs. So we're developing a strategy in partnership with United Way and others to achieve it.
Yes, ma'am. Can I just make one other comment? Francesca has been wonderful. We were in your office yesterday. So I can attest to the folks that are on the phone that this is real work that's going on. And so anything that we can further do to advance that agenda, we want to do that at United Way, Madam Mayor.
We are counting on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you so much, Samaria. Thrilled to have you with us. And now we're going to go on. Miami-Dade Commission for Women is in the house.
I say something about that. So the Commission for Women, of course, we have with different cities, but our county Commission for Women, fantastic job. Very thrilled to have leadership here. And of course, one of their projects is the annual CEDAW report, Convention to End Discrimination in All Forms Against Women. It's part of the United Nations Convention. And it was actually the first piece of legislation I worked on as a commissioner. I actually started working on it before I even took office, because we were approached by San Francisco and it was asked, did we want to be the first county to adopt this convention? So I was super proud to work with our women's leadership groups and the commission to bring that forward. And every year since, we've had fantastic reports. And I know Maria Elcheva from FIU, who's been the author. I heard you say she was here, so she's here somewhere. But I know they're coming out with another report real soon. I'm very excited to receive it.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, and thank you to the Women's Fund of Miami-Dade County for putting on this event. My name is Michelle Brew, and I serve as the first vice chair for the Miami-Dade Commission for Women, and an advisory board for the Board of County Commissioners, the county administration, and the public at large on issues pertaining to status of women. We are a proud partner of the Women's Fund today and have a question for you, Madam Mayor, regarding economic development and wage gap. In this year's Miami-Dade County Status Woman Report, we learned that 13% wage gap persists in the county, with a median earnings of women working full-time at $40,036 compared to $46,023 for men working full-time. Can you please address some of these initiatives you are doing to address this very important issue?
Well, thank you so very much. And thank you for the advocacy of the wonderful Women's Commission. And it's really shameful, isn't it? And unfortunately, we have not been going in the right direction. They called the recession of the pandemic a she-cession because so many women had to stay home, to be caregivers, and also many women's businesses that were really hurt. So we've also declined the percentage of women businesses that do have contracts with the county. So it's just a very, very serious problem. And, you know, at the current pace, we'll never, never get out of it. So, you know, at one point, the Women's Fund was talking about very aggressively organizing in the private sector as well to promote private, because of course, that's a figure that's countywide. It's not about county government employment. So I think we do somewhat better in the county, but you know, we haven't had a recent survey actually. And the thing is to showcase where people are doing well and also to train women and girls how to negotiate. We know that it starts behind, it stays behind. If there's time out of the workplace for families, that's a disadvantage. So we know that the gap of poverty for women in their retirement years is even greater because it carries forward in terms of the payments into the retirement system. So it is a huge problem. And I think it takes a combination of public examples, public shaming, and training our women to really know how to step up and demand a fair shot.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I'm going to ask you one of the questions, Madam Mayor, from one of our anonymous attendees. That question is, I heard that there's a possibility that Miami-Dade County funding for climate change and resilience might be cut totally or severely reduced. Is there any truth to that?
Not at all. So there was a disappointment because I had put together with my Office of Resilience a grants program this year that was halted at the county commission level after a lot of work. We still have a grants program on environmental education in partnership with the Maine Foundation, and we have substantial funding for resilience in my office. The resilience office is part of the mayor's office within our Department of Regulatory and Economic Resources, our DERM, Division of Environmental Regulation. I mean, we're doing many things, and many studies, many compacts are going forward. I am still looking for ways to put more investment in our community partnerships so that we can work collaboratively to showcase everything from Plastic Free 305, which is an initiative that we've got businesses doing the right thing, building efficiency, or BE 305 to reduce energy consumption in commercial buildings. The LEED certification for projects that the county is embarking on, our efforts to put solar on as many county facilities as possible and to build in solar and other resilience features into projects that we're putting our money into, whether it's redeveloping public housing or subsidized housing, cool roofs, tree canopy. We've got lots of money that we're putting in for building up the tree canopy. Our septic to sewer Connect to Protect, it's called, program that protects septic from overflow into the waterways and into the bay. our extreme heat program, and our chief heat officer, and everything that she and her team are doing to not only educate people and prevent real health problems, but protect our workforce in the county and outside with new legislation, and to have cooling centers. So I'm just naming a few of the things, our fleet that is going electric, and so on. So there's many, many things that are happening. There was a setback on the grants program that I had hoped to launch with, I think it was 2.3 million. And we will find a way to continue our education efforts in partnership with nonprofits beyond what we're already doing.
And that actually answers another anonymous question that we had there in as well. So there will be a future for CBOs, right? The budget. That was another anonymous question that we had here.
I would like,
what was-
yeah, I would like more, but we do have
Yes.
the program of the Miami Foundation. And, you know, ultimately I propose and then the board votes.
Of course. Well, we thank you for all the funds that have been infused in recent administration. We're going to ask Mark Needle, who is from UM and C3 and is part of the current Miami Women's Fund Miami-Dade grantee cohort. We're asking people who are on the ground to help us resolve the tremendously difficult problems of owner-operators who are working in the early childcare space. So we have Sant Law and Connect Familias and others who you may hear from here as well, also in the audience. Mark, take it away. Good evening.
Well, hello and good evening, Mayor. Good to see you. I wanted to commend you for your initiative with the roadmap for improving children's outcomes, because that is the flip side of the same coin, which is the Women's Fund has focused on early childhood initiative, because in order to address the workforce and take some efforts collectively to raise the bar and improve the efficiency and improve the sustainability of the folks who are caring for the kids, which is a critical component of making our future, educational outcomes stronger. So I want to thank the Women's Fund for their effort on that side, and you for what you've done. I know you've also been a strong supporter of workforce over the years. One of the things you said in your roadmap was how we can work collectively, the importance of collective impact. And the work that we're doing is really about aligning systems to be more effective collectively, to use the shared space in order to achieve things better, a picture of what's happening, better alignment of resources, et cetera. And I wonder if you have strategies as to how to better incorporate, build on collective impact work that's happening in the county, because I think there's a lot of it, and it's always strongest when the leadership at the top is aware of and supporting those kinds of initiatives. So I wonder what thinking you have on this topic.
Thanks, Mark. And actually, Mark and I have worked together for probably 30 plus years, I don't know, on these issues. And it's great. I'd like to know more about your current work. So I will say that one of my favorite quotes, collaboration is an unnatural act among consenting adults. That was from Judith Bunker, from those of you who remember wonderful Judith. That was her quote. And I really appreciate it because it really takes effort. And we're all in our little worlds, and we have our performance metrics and our accountability streams. And so when we're accountable to each other, that's kind of outside of our usual role, if you will. And so that's why the collective impact model is so effective, because it really says that we are going to hold each other accountable. And it has to have some structure to it and some mutual goal setting and accountability and people to keep us on task. And if we have a shared goal and we each have a role to play, then truly we can achieve even more. And I'll use the another quote that I used today, that you know, you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And today's example with this shared portal for after school programming that builds on the shared portal for summer camps, that has just so electrified people's ability to learn about what's available. We have so many opportunities, so many resources, so many wonderful programs working in silos. And it's not just that we can't have maximum impact, it's just so hard for the public to navigate and find out about, and it's very inefficient. Now, there are reasons for people doing things in their own unique way, but it also is so much more powerful, the whole being greater than the sum of the parts. That's another way of thinking about it. So what would be my advice in terms of children's outcomes? I was very surprised to learn when we pulled this Children's Commission together that it had been a long time since there'd been a similar effort. Now we have the Children's Trust, and thank goodness. So the Children's Trust obviously does a great job of leveraging resources and spreading them around throughout the community for maximum benefit. And there are different committees and so on. But in terms of actually setting mutually achievable goals, you know, we have to make an effort. We have to come together around that shared purpose. So, and really there are so many things to pay attention to. We have to pick those things that will have the greatest opportunity for impact and leverage and the greatest appeal. You know, people ask me sometimes, what's more important to work on? And I say, well, where is the readiness? You know, there's so many things to do. Where is their momentum? And oftentimes a crisis does create momentum. So I would say, for example, just thinking out loud, that the shortage of workers creates a crisis to help even the business community get on board with the need to address childcare. Right? So it's their bottom line. If they can, and these are people that could go to work, but for the need for care. So that's just one example.
We did an impact collaborative, Madam Mayor, childcare. Whose business is it? Right?
Whose business is it? Right?
About whose business is it?
And then to pay a reasonable wage so that we can have the people caring for our children that meet our standards and so on.
Look forward to the roadmap being the opening of a longer conversation. Thank you for all the effort and the smart approach you take to governance.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, we've also been saying at the Women's Fund, we're trying to create a post-silo Miami-Dade for women and girls and accelerate all the incredible work. This is such a powerhouse group of participants here today. I'm gobsmacked of how much work we can get done. It's the more we keep on, you know, working together, being in our lanes and then coming together out of silos and then going back into our lanes. And to that, we're going to ask Betty Alonso from Connect Familias. Welcome, Betty.
Hi, thank you for having me. And it's great to see such wonderful minds come together for the betterment of our children and our community and our women, and really champion so many causes. Madam Mayor, I appreciate your leadership. I have always. We've known each other for a while in different lives and in different sectors, and coming together on this right now. I guess my question, and being able to work with the Women's Fund on the early childhood issue and having different perspectives, my question really becomes around the shifts that we have seen in the last recent years in our communities. We're seeing families that are probably in more need than ever because of cost of living increases. Wages are stagnant, especially for women. We've talked about this today, and we've talked about our newest members of our communities, our babies that are coming in. We know that I appreciate the fact that we all are aware of the efforts if we all come together for a collective shared responsibility to our community, that we can get to that. My question is on the budget specifically. While I am celebrating the Early Start and Head Start programming that is being rolled out, I am concerned about those that will not, for whatever reason, whether it's economics or whether it's location or just choice, right, or need, are not going to have their youngest children in childcare. And how do we also help them? And oftentimes those are our CBOs who stand in that gap. And I know that, how do we help you, and how do we advocate on behalf of CBOs to make sure that there are monies there and that there is efforts that we don't leave anyone out, that we build an equitable community that I know that you so much champion.
Well, Betty, thank you so much. And for what you do, Connect Familias is truly, a fantastic model and approach to engaging the community and solving these problems and helping people to speak their truth. I think actually that's one thing I would say, that it's incredibly valuable to have people who are directly affected by these challenges to speak to decision makers. Their truth cannot be contested. It's their lived experience. It's not about somebody trying to make money on them. It's about them trying to live the best life they can live for themselves and their families, and to be part of a productive part of our society. So I think that's really powerful. And I know a lot of times nonprofits feel uncomfortable about coming and lobbying, or they feel uncomfortable asking participants to speak out. But I think you will find that there is nothing more powerful than that. And individual stories are really the doorway to people's hearts. And I think, most elected officials have a heart. So I think we approach them through their emotions, through the heartstrings. That would be my short answer.
And is there a plan moving forward or a mechanism to include CBOs in your plans for children and families? How are we going to expand that? I know that there have been some that have been actively, and I know that you've been working at the systems level, rightly so, but where are we going to, what are those mechanisms? And if not, I just would like to advocate for that.
We have the new CBO grant cycle for the county, hopefully coming out in November. And I believe that Linda Schadifer and Paula Pierre are on the line here and could speak more to it. They spent a lot of time getting feedback to make sure that we could design something that would be most beneficial and responsive to the community. It is yet to come to the commission for approval. And some of you who've lived through this, like I have, know that it's been 10 years in the making, and it's been a couple of false starts and not been able to move forward. I think it is very important to have that opportunity. I would love to have more money in that pot. I can tell you that I don't see the commission putting more money in that pot this year, but perhaps it would be something to work on for a future year. And there's a lot changing in county government with constitutional officers. So we have 30,000 employees, 5,100 will no longer be county employees starting January of 2025. There are other ways that state is trying to preempt local government. There's a lot of moving parts to county government. My staff puts a quote out front on the 29th floor every day, and a couple times they put my quote, which is, if government can't help people, then what good is government? What is government for but to help people? That is very much my belief. And again, historically, some of you may know that there were efforts in the past to end county government's involvement in the nonprofit community. That's not my idea at all. So I think, we could certainly talk about it. Linda, could we elevate Linda as a panelist perhaps to speak for a minute about this?
Absolutely. And while that's happening, let us remind one another, amazing partners here. We've been doing advocacy trainings every year Advocacy 101, 102, 103, 104, 105. The Frey Institute folks are here from FIU, Civic Engagement. It's really important for all of us to not get lazy. Know not only who your commissioner is, but know their phone number and know where they live and they're not where they live personally, where their staff lives, where their office is, and make sure that your voices are heard. So welcome, Linda.
Good
I hope you're
evening.
safe. Driving
Yes.
safely.
Yes, I am. I am pulled over. I have been since the beginning, listening and participating. So, Betty, thank you so much for your questions about the CBO grant process. As the mayor mentioned, we are looking to launch the new CBO process in November, pending approval by the commission. That would put us on schedule for grant applications to be due back to us in January. We would have quite a lengthy community review process because we want to involve possibly about 200 community reviewers to look over and score all the applications. And then of course, everything would go back to the commission. So the new grants, according to the proposed schedule, the new grants wouldn't actually begin until January 2025. I know that seems like a long time out, but it is necessary for the legislative process to take place. Just a couple of things I would mention. We've worked really hard. The mayor has challenged us to think about, inclusivity of the process, fairness of the process, the value of CBOs in our community. So considering all those things and looking at the feedback we received from CBOs and funders and even members of the community, we've put together a proposal for a process that would be a little more streamlined. And we tried to simplify some of the aspects that may have been barriers in the past for CBOs to apply or to compete comfortably or successfully. And, we don't have time to go through all those, but one example would be lowering insurance requirements. Another example would be lifting the cap on administrative costs. And again, all of these things need to be approved by commission, but we've certainly proposed them. One last thing I'll mention is that we have proposed part of the process moving forward would be that for any CBO dollars returned unused back to the county, that those dollars not sort of be lost to the general fund, but actually stay in the CBO pot, that we'd be able to recover and redeploy CBO dollars. This is very important when you look at the history of the CBO, the amount for CBO funding. You can see how it has decreased significantly over the years. And part of that has been dollars lost when large grantees went out of business or couldn't use the dollar. So we're going to recapture those and keep them right where they belong with our CBO partners.
That's terrific. Thank you so much. Thank you, Betty. I'm going to go on to the next question, if that's all right with you all. We have an anonymous question. What supports are being provided for newly released inmates in our community, Madam Mayor?
Yeah, I'm really proud of what we are doing to reactivate a reentry program. We have a new director of corrections and rehabilitation, James Reyes. He's really quite wonderful and he's quite effective. And he's been working with organizations like Behind the Bars, and I don't know if some of the representatives of that group are present, but I think they're doing a fabulous job advocating for the needs. And we've done things like eliminate the fee for telephones, and we're looking at reducing other fees as well, the subsistence fee, the daily rate, and other things. So we're quite eager to reduce the burden and to prepare people. We're partnering with several organizations inside the jails for reentry prep. And then we're also doing follow-up with people outside and looking to really create reentry hubs in the community. So we're also looking at employment opportunities, like was mentioned before about bus driver opportunity. But really the activities inside the jail are so critical. And I'll just tell from a personal perspective. I know you were asking about reentry. which we, of course, we want people to be successful and not recidivate. And we've been under court, under a court order to improve conditions in the jail. We have been told by our federal monitors that we are now in substantial compliance. There'll be a court hearing in November. We're extremely hopeful after 10 years to be out from under this and to be able to move forward and concentrate on reforms in the corrections system, not just getting rid of the problems that we have been cited for, but also moving beyond to really increase the quality of our programming. But I was going to give an example. When I visited the jails a few years ago, I saw people just lying in bed, absolutely no activity during the day. And when I went recently, a couple of months ago, they were involved in all kinds of activities. There were courses going on. There was reading and writing and cards and card playing and dominoes. It was a very different atmosphere. And we've been told generally that morale is much better. And so, all of this is to help people to be engaged so that we can support them to have a better chance when they get back out into the community.
That's terrific. Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. I think I'm going to give you two questions, two different folks, because they have both to do with transportation. So they've identified themselves. Remedi with Gem Culture here. Good evening. Really quickly, we need transportation. I'm hearing things about bus transportation. That sounds like it's for the city, correct? So are we able to set aside money to provide transportation stipends or partnerships with private transportation services for nonprofit youth organizations serving girls and teenagers? Are there grants? So that's one, and actually that's enough. And then I'll go to the next one, which is more specifically about bus routes. So that's enough question for the first part. Go ahead.
So the Department of Transportation and Public Works runs the majority of the public transit system, which has the Metro Rail, the Mover downtown, and the route to the airport, and then a very extensive bus service. The vast majority of our transit users use buses, rely on buses. And we have just completed, I don't know how many years, it was, I don't know if we have anyone on from transportation. It's been more than a decade, like much more than a decade since we've had any bus realignment. So in partnership with a nonprofit called the Transit Alliance, a very extensive community engagement process went on to determine how we could improve those bus routes, make them more frequent in the places that people primarily use them, the major corridors, and more reliable, of course, using apps and different things that people can utilize to predict the arrival. And the result is called the Better Bus Network. And the first phase was launched in July, and the next phase is scheduled in November. So we're very hopeful that this will lead to more people utilizing transit, because traffic is terrible. And the only way to avoid traffic, we can't build more roads here really, is to improve transit so people will use it more so. We are, more than other places, recovered our ridership. Many other places have still not recovered post-pandemic when the ridership went way down, and we are up to pre-pandemic levels. So that is a very promising sign. We also have major new corridors under construction. The South Dade Transitway, which runs along US 1 all the way to Florida City, is well underway, and it'll be a brand new fleet of electric buses that will have level boarding and prepaid and will be as fast as a train. Of course, we all wanted the extension of Metro Rail. I, in fact, voted for the extension of Metro Rail, but it was not the majority. It was a harder sell to get federal dollars for it because we do not yet have the concentrated ridership. We have in total 6 corridors, the north that we're fighting to have Metro Rail extension up to the Broward line, and a beach corridor, finally, a northeast corridor with Bright Line, We have a new station in Aventura. Other stations are in planning. So there's a lot going on to improve our public transit. The cities have dollars from the half penny that they can use for city-specific transit. And using Coral Gables as an example, but other city of Miami as well, they have a very extensive trolley system that circulates with frequency, unfortunately not coordinated schedule-wise with the counties. We're trying to make that happen. Cutler Bay is another one that does a fabulous job with transit. And then we also have on demand called Go Connect. Some cities have freebie services, and the Go Connect is also available in routes that are being diminished. So when also if there's an elevator or an escalator out, we did have big problems with that, which are now being remedied. People have to get between stations. It's like an Uber or a Lyft service, but it's special for our transportation system. So, we've got world-class cities have world-class transit. We're not there yet, but we're on our way. And I will say the half penny that is paid for transit was billed as what we could get with a full penny, and then it was half penny on the ballot, and they never changed the program. So never were we able to, this is all before my time, but promises were made and they were broken because it was really a half a loaf that was able to be delivered. So here we are and trying to catch up and rebuild trust in partnership with the Citizens Independent Transportation Trust, or CITT. Also, I should mention bicycles. I think Meg Daly is on and she's been texting me. We have the Underline. We have a really great system of great bicycle trails. South Dade Trail, Commissioner Cone Higgins has championed that. We have a trail that goes between the two national parks, Biscayne National Parks and Everglades National Park. We have other trails. We do not still have adequate protection in our bike lanes that get us to those trails. So that is something that we are working hard to remedy. We're taking what's called the, fee, the road impact fee that was only able to be used for roads. And we're changing it to a mobility fee that we can use for other means like bicycle infrastructure, so that we can add more protected lanes and things that will make bicycling safer for all of us.
That's terrific. That's terrific. The very specific transport question from our friends at Santla. We have heard that 3 major bus routes will be eliminated: buses 10, 19, and bus H. These are lifelines for many who live in the Northeast corridor. Is there any truth to that? There's an alarm. This is alarming for a transit dependent community. I don't know if any of your staff is here who's able to support you in that answer.
So unfortunately, we don't have anyone from transportation on this call. We did have a specialty meeting 2 nights ago on transportation and housing, and yesterday on environment. And I am so sorry, but I will certainly get in touch with Santla to follow up on exactly the routes. Some routes are being eliminated, with other possibilities being created, and that's also where Go Connect networks are being added. I can't remember where there was a particular area, so we definitely don't want to leave people out in the cold. So let's talk about that.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Nikki Dawkins, wonderful to have you with us here this evening. Partners in reproductive health issues, reproductive health doula. Nikki.
I don't know what's going on with my background, so I apologize, but you can hear me okay?
Perfect.
Yes. All right, that's all that matters. You can hear my voice. Well, it's such an honor, Madam Mayor, to be on this call with you today. I really appreciate your time, and I want to thank you all for hosting this amazing call and always just being so supportive of the reproductive health work that I do. Today, I'm representing Period and the Menstrual Market, 2 organizations that are addressing period poverty and menstrual equity here in Miami. Both have different goals. The one that I want to talk about today specifically is Period's goal. I started a Period Miami chapter in 2018, and I have been addressing this issue in our city ever since. Which means that it has been a continuing problem that we have had. It's become such it's become such a great part of our work to provide service and products to not just schools, but shelters. We're working with WIC, we're working with trafficking organizations, basically anyone with a period, which I know pretty much almost anyone on this call can relate to. And some of you might be having your period right now, and I'm here to make you very uncomfortable yet comfortable with that. And I think that is my biggest goal, is to smash the stigma in Miami. And I think we have been doing a really great job of that. But since we have grown, the national organization period have really been supportive of my work here in Miami and gone as far as to open an office here. We now have a period hub where we have every menstrual product you can think of, from menstrual cups to period underwear to pads to tampons, organic, not organic, whatever preference you have, we have it for you. However, since the passing of HB 389, which happened on July 1st, which was also the same time we received an amazing grant from the Miami Foundation. So please shout out to them for keeping us going. We have doubled in the amount of schools looking for product, because although this bill does bring and raise the importance and the impact that period poverty has on students, it does not solve the issue. And it actually puts more pressure on our organization to continue to provide to our partners, many who are on this call right now. So I would love to see how we, Miami, because I know we have a lot of work to do on the state level, but I believe in this city so much. And I love the home that I've built here. And I want to continue to provide this for our families, for anyone with a period, no matter how you identify. It is so important. We are bleeding every day out here, you know, and more importantly, we have young students in school starting this amazing menstrual journey that should be celebrated, a very sacred moment, and we are not giving them what they need, not only on the product level, but on the education level, and just on the feeling of being comfortable with your body and your period. This natural occurrence that is the reason we are all here today should be respected, and it should be done from the beginning, and they should be taught that as well. We shouldn't have students having to leave class because they feel uncomfortable or afraid to ask a teacher for a pad. They shouldn't be leaving because they're experiencing period issues, which, by the way, is what Menstrual Market is all about, is helping women, particularly women of color, address their period issues and solve them early on so they don't have to deal with infertility and other issues later in their reproductive lives. So, Madam Mayor, I ask you to help us support menstruation in Miami. Let's let Miami have healthy, beautiful, celebrated periods. If we can't do it for the state, let's do it for our city, because we're the best. And let's set the example for the rest of the state. Let's be the first ones to make it happen. Help me. And thank you. I wish you could see my face, but I'm crying, so it's probably a good thing.
That was really beautiful and passionate. Thank you so much for making this so real for all of us. I don't know exactly what the law was that was changed. And I must say, I have really not been involved in this issue. So I think this was a great education for me. We do have on the call several of the county staff that should want to learn more. Sonia Grice is our Director of Community Action and Human Services Department. That's our main social service provider. So Sonia, let's work with Nikki. We can get her contact information. Or you could post, I don't know if there's a chat or whatever, what's the best way to reach you? You could write an email, Sonia, sonia.grice, Grice, at miami-dade.gov. Sonia, would you want to respond? And maybe you can help. Sonia?
Yes, I'm about to put my contact information in the chat for you. I'm using my iPad, so you don't see me, Madam Mayor. I have this weird screen name. I'm in my office, but it says Green Frog. So I'm here. So Nikki, I'll be happy to work with you. Let me send you my contact information, please.
We're
Can you
thrilled.
hear me?
And I'm going to ask our team to
Okay.
put in the chat a couple of references on the Women's Fund website. We worked with Nikki and others on an impact collaborative that was all about period poverty, and like to have you all share that, and also our page on the effects of extreme heat on pregnant people and beyond. There are lots of resources that are not necessarily only Women's Fund Miami-Dade resources. They are community resources, experts who come every month to tell us what we need to know and what we can do to address issues that women and girls are facing. So we thank you all so much for going in and hearing what others have to say about period poverty there as well. Natalia Zaya from the Children's Trust asks a question here in the chat, Madam Mayor. What would be your recommendation as it relates to this budget to individuals and organizations who are committed to ensuring families are supported and successful?
Well, that's a big question. Look, we have spent the 2 3/4 years that I've been mayor trying really hard to make county government more responsive to community needs. I came in and there's a bunch of departments and they all do different things. They pick up the garbage, they run the water system, they run the buses, they provide some core social services. And I would say there was really not a cohesive plan for what would make a difference. We launched the Thrive 305 listening initiative, again in partnership with the Miami Foundation and many nonprofit organizations that were involved. I know the Women's Fund as well. Juan Visser, our engagement director, came to us as a consultant on that project, and we subsequently hired him because of the great work that he did with that effort. We heard from 1% of the population, which is a statistically significant percentage. It was in the height of the COVID pandemic. We went door to door in partnership with organizations. We went online. We had community convenings, socially distanced. We did many, many things to gather input, and we came up with a Thrive 305 action plan, and we are following that plan. And we bring it frames our budget. If you go into our budget book, for the county, it's framed around the Thrive 305 agenda. Our departments put their budgets together in response to the Thrive 305 agenda. So we update every year based on these meetings that we have. So we are doing what we feel we can within the confines of county funding and politics to address what is needed. There's always more that is needed. The county is not the only game in town. We're in partnership with many, many others, but I believe that the county is primarily responsible for the well-being of our community. And so I long for the days of the Alliance for Human Services, when we all work together to put out plans for different areas of need. And it was a collective impact effort of sorts. But I would just say that we went through what we thought were the key things that we could deliver this budget year. And I hope that if you agree with us, that you will communicate that to the people who will vote on the budget.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. We have 2 questions that are a little bit similar. One from Nicole from Black Girls Cook. Will any funding be set aside for healthy cooking, nutrition, food education programs? And the wonderful founder of Power of the Heels, Gladys Mizrahi, asked something similar. Raising healthy children is critical, especially on their development. Are there any programs addressing nutrition and exercise?
So I would defer to Sonia Grice, otherwise known as Green Frog, to tell us what might be included, for example, in our Head Start program, which does meet many, many children's needs, but it's not universal by any means. But I would also say that, and I didn't really say this at the outset, but we received tremendous amount of federal money over the last few years, and we were able last year particularly to do some more grants than we had done in the past to a range of nonprofit organizations. That was one-time money. It is now gone. We warned everybody, we told everybody, we were sad about it, but we didn't want to hold back on meeting a range of community needs. So the main way that nonprofits get funding from the county is from the CBO competitive grants process, which Linda Shadowford discussed earlier. And we encourage people with that sort of idea and program to take part. But certainly we should be incorporating healthy eating and nutrition into our programming. And Sonia, is there anything you'd like to add? I don't know if she is muted. That's Green Frog. Oh, she's a panelist. Okay. Sonia? Oh, she went away.
Okay, here I am. I'm sorry. I don't know how to work this thing. I'm sorry. So yes, we actually part of the Children's Commission. We have a health committee that we can probably include some of your information in, and you can probably work with us. I will add if you look in the chat, you'll see my contact information. And I can share more information on what we're doing. Is that okay? Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Sorry, I'm using my iPad and it's weird for me. I need to just log out.
We would like to benefit from your programming and your ideas. Thank you very much for bringing
Okay.
the young lady who spoke. Thank you, Sonia, too.
So, Madam Mayor, I'm going to focus on freedom from violence for a moment. We have several questions in the chat. And then, we have questions here also, the Miami-Dade Commission for Women, and we all work so closely together, as you have, Madam Mayor, for so many years with so many other organizations here. The Coordinated Victims Assistance Center that the county provides is really quite visionary, not only looking at domestic violence and human trafficking services provided by the county themselves, but it's partnering with so many CBOs and other community service providers. So we applaud the work of the Coordinated Victims Assistance Center. And so really looking for your insights on next steps and expansion. We understand that in 2016, there was discussion from the commissioners about expanding the physical Coordinated Victims Assistance Center services to be not only central, where they are here in Coconut Grove, but also in the north and as well in the south, which is an expansion of services. So thus it's a big deal. Can you give us any insights into where the county might be on this proposed expansion?
So in actual fact, I was commissioner that initiated those discussions, as I recall, and I am very, very committed to expanding the CVAC services. And we did get an update that it's a possible locations have been identified, not yet funding. So it is taking a little bit of time. It's an expensive enterprise. Of course, we want to partner with the service providers that would be co-located, and we don't want to wait until we have buildings done to do that partnership. So we really want to encourage, and that's Sonia Grice's department as well. So we really want to encourage those who are committed and concerned to reach out and work with us so that we can, let me say, this no wrong door philosophy that I brought to county government is really that we shouldn't need to physically co-locate to partner. And of course, it is convenient for people to come to one place and get a variety of services. We know that, but we also know that we live in a more and more a virtual world, and we need to do our very best to collaborate for the benefit of people who need our help. So let's, that would be another kind of a collective impact approach to gather all the people that are helping victims of violence and abuse, and making sure that we're fully aware of the resources and that we're supporting each other to deliver those services to the community.
So I will pledge the support of your Women's Fund Miami-Dade. Madam Mayor, I know the Miami-Dade Commission for Women we can help and support and work with their commissioners as well, and you to support that expansion. We are truly and honestly at your service. We had another anonymous question here that had a similar kind of question. I think Madam Mayor answered that. What supports are being provided for adults with lived human trafficking, sexual trauma, or intimate partner violence experience? The Coordinated Victims Assistance Center, I'm going to ask my team to put their telephone number there, and all of the information of the Coordinated Victims Assistance Center. We actually have the honor of one of your civil servants who also serves on our board. Many board members are here today, but Yvonne Mesa has been an incredible support. Thema Campbell, the amazing founder and CEO, working with girls, is also asking a very specific question. What specific funding is included in the budget for girls aging out of foster care or girls at risk of trafficking? Is there,
Hi, Thema. And Hattie's House is a wonderful program that is in just development. We can't wait to see it come to fruition. Congratulations.
Terrific. We have a next question. Thank you for holding the session. This is from Ruth Jean-Noel, I believe. Excuse me. I hope my pronunciation isn't too awry. We at FAMSAGE are building new leaders to develop their skills around safety. Curious on what ways the county budget is addressing safety for women and girls. Same category here.
Great question. And I would say, again, that's part of Sonia's portfolio, unless there's something on the law enforcement side that could also be, I do not know if we have self-defense type training or curriculum, and certainly could look into that. Is there somebody from our law enforcement team on this call? Juan, do you know? Stephanie. Oh, our interim director, Stephanie Daniels, is on. And if she could be elevated, she could address it from the law enforcement perspective. And we do have as well a new team that she can describe that is also about intervening with mental health support instead of just law enforcement support to really help in some of these difficult situations. So, Stephanie? I see her name on top, but I don't see, is she able to speak? Is she a panelist? She is not. Oh, yes, she is. Okay, well, let's give her a minute. Oh, her mic is open. Stephanie? No longer. Okay, we've got Dr. Rachel Turgeman, who's one of our partners, who's very familiar with our domestic violence programs. Do we want to hear from Rachel?
Rachel, would you like to be promoted to panelist? It's wonderful to see you active in the chat. Rachel, would you like to be promoted to panelist team? Go ahead, and I know Rachel. She's wonderful on screen, so let's see if she can. And while we're promoting Rachel.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, here we go. Hi, everybody. Hello, Myra. You're doing a fantastic job. Mayor, you are beyond amazing. And I would like to publicly say here and wherever I stand, and you know I speak in a lot of venues and conferences and summits, you are by far the best mayor Miami-Dade County has ever had. Let's give a big round of applause, everybody. Do it in your offices or homes. I don't care where you are. I've known you for over 30 years. It's amazing. And you look fantastic. I hope I still look good, but you look fabulous. I want to personally thank you for your work. I mean, there's nothing that you haven't done for this community, whether you're talking about domestic violence, whether it's sexual assault, whether it's missing children, whether it's gun violence, transportation, or infrastructure. There is nothing that you are not working on with your life. And so, you know, we really appreciate your endless hours, your dedication, your commitment. And we God bless you a million times, a billion times for being our mayor.
Thank you so much. You're so kind. I did not ask you to be elevated to give me praise. I asked you to be elevated to speak to the issue of our domestic.
And I will. So I don't know if most of you know, but Myra, I know I spoke to you recently. We have started a new venture called Powerhouse Workshops. And we do it with one of our educational consultants, Dr. Maria Etienne from Global Innovative Foundation as well, Dr. Maria Carmen. And what we do is we teach kids and adults, and I would like to read some of our community members with your help, Mayor, how to deal with the emotion of anger, how to mitigate the emotion of anger, what are the different cycles of anger, and how to solve conflict without resorting to violence. What is that formula, that evidence-based formula that we're teaching in our classes that actually is working? If I invite all the participants to go to our website, powerhouseworkshops.com, and look at the testimonials of our kids. And with that, Mayor, I like to ask you if there's any way that we can partner and see how we can bring Powerhouse Workshops to the different sectors of our diverse communities. We would love that.
Okay, thank you so much. I think this is a great question for Sonia. So we'll connect you and you guys can explore the possibilities because we know we have to do it together, like we've been saying.
Thank
So
you.
is there, Stephanie, I don't know, I don't see her now. So let's go on to the next, if we could. And I don't know how long
Thank
you're
you, Rachel.
say. I do need to go to, believe it or not, another meeting, and it's also the homeless count tonight.
We
So I
believe you. We
time.
very much do believe you. Should we, one more question or should we tie it up right now, Madam Mayor?
No, that's fine. Keep,
Okay, great. We do, just in the same freedom from violence issue, Viviana, can you promote yourself for a moment? Viviana from our team, Senior Research and Policy Associate. We're working with your amazing county team. Viviana, can you talk about some of our work and things that we'd love the partnership of the mayor to support to forge on some of our quests for more data?
Of course. Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. It's so wonderful to have you here answering all of these questions. So recently, the Women's Fund has endeavored into creating a gender equity index, which is a tool to measure progress towards gender equity for women and girls in our community. The inclusion of certain metrics for the gender equity index, however, was a little bit limited due to the availability of gender data. And within that, this was particularly true as we attempted to collect gender, domestic violence, and sexual violence data. The Florida State Department of Law Enforcement actually doesn't require police departments to collect gender data, and they only report on the collective cases or victims or offenses. Therefore, we went to multiple municipalities in our county to see if they had the data available. Unfortunately, some of them don't, and as their databases aren't able to process it, at least that's what they told us. But my question is, how can the county encourage the different municipalities to better collect gendered and racial and ethnic data, especially when it comes to domestic violence, sexual violence, and overall crimes against women?
well, thanks so much for your work. And I took a little look at the Gender Equity Index. It looks great. I see that Stephanie Daniels has come back, and she also is the keeper of data in our police department. And I know I get monthly and quarterly statistics on all kinds of things. I would say this, it is very challenging because there's no common reporting across the municipalities. So when we're trying to compare, it's different metrics, hard to mesh it all together. But Stephanie, do you want to address that plus the previous question, if you recall, about how we're addressing prevention, really, how we're training women and girls on safety? So
yes,
please.
ma'am. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to be here. Regarding their previous questions, MDPD currently is not teaching girls or women any type of self-defense to that. However, we are teaching women and girls how to, better protect themselves, how to be safer. We teach them when we're out engaging in conversation with them, either through school or at the parks, through our mentoring program, things like that. But we're not teaching actual self-defense techniques, but we are teaching them how to better keep themselves safe, and of course, how to report if they become a victim of a crime. Now, when it comes to the collecting of data, you are absolutely right. And Madam Mayor stated it earlier that on a whole, the municipalities, we don't have a way of getting their information. However, the Miami-Dade Police Department do track gender, race, sex, and so forth. We do have that. However, we do not track ethnicity We do have that available for you if you ever want that. We are working to see how we as a county as a whole can actually get that data from our partners. We are looking at that, trying to see, what best way to do that. In addition to that, this is a conversation that we can have with our other chiefs around the county. We have a very good working relationship with all of our partners, so we can have that conversation at our day chief meetings. We do meet once a month. We can put you on the calendar if you want to come and present, and then we can continue to have that conversation. So that way we can let them know that this is information that we really need to collect, and just keep having that conversation till everybody gets on board to actually being able to give you that data.
And
Please.
have the chair of that chiefs group is Delma from Miami Gardens, right?
She just ended her term. We have a new chief in, and I cannot, off the top of my head, cannot remember. But I can, if you were to connect with me, I can make sure that you get on the agenda, so that way you can present and we can continue to have those conversations.
That
We're
would be
very
wonderful.
interested, and we're going to have an invitation for the new lead of chief to come to one of our impact collaboratives as well. The stronger together and the shared data is so important. So I know, Madam Mayor, you're giving us so much time. I'm going to combine two questions that have to do with something else I know near and dear to your heart. There are seniors. So you have a couple of questions here, one from Clarice Cooper. The population of senior citizens in Miami-Dade County and municipalities is increasing. Does the county plan to allocate even more funding for subsidized housing for this growing sector of society who face harsher challenges than normal for survival due to fixed incomes, health issues attributed to advanced age, et cetera? And then I will also say that Deirdre Davis from Jesse Trice Community Health System, will there be any funding or assistance for seniors in need of help with housing as landlords are raising? So I think they're both similar. So I'll leave you with that. And I'm going to let everybody know that we have to let you go at some point. It's incredible, your generosity of time.
This is so important to have everyone's participation. These are great questions. We need you to be informed and engaged so we can have active and effective democracy, and we can be accountable, and you're the customers. We're here to provide the service, spending your taxpayer dollars. So it's all great. We do have on our Director of Public Housing and Community Development, Alex Bailina. So I would like him to answer some of the housing questions. But I will say we also have an Office of Housing Advocacy. Dolores Holly is our director, and it has been flooded with questions and need for help. And we have just been doing, there's Alex walking. We have done really so much. I can't imagine another place that has done more than Miami-Dade County has done to address the real housing affordability crisis that we have with rental assistance, eviction prevention, more building of housing, more repair of housing. So it's just many, many, many ways that we've assisted, but specifically to the, and also we did pass laws, tenants rights and notices to require 60 days, which the state legislature sought to eliminate. So we were preempted on many of those protections, which was extremely sad and unfortunate, deeply regrettable. But there he is, Mr. Alex Bailina, to answer specifically some of the questions.
Good evening. Thank you very much. Very informative. And yes, housing is a critical component of our community, especially the elderly and the seniors. And we're building up our capacity, not only in affordable housing, but some of our public housing units. If you do have a senior that is in need, we do have a program that is open right now. We do have some vacancies. It's called Helen Sawyer. It's located at 1150 Northwest 11th Street. And that is a good possibility. If you have any other additional information or requirements, please feel free to call our office and we could provide some guidance and some support to provide assistance. We want to make sure that if somebody is elderly and they're in need of housing, that we could provide the support to them, maybe not only by a unit, but we have some fiscal capacities to ensure that nobody is left out of their home.
But let me just ask Alex, in our surtax programs and our RAD, do we have designated for older adults and set-asides and things like that? And how would people go about learning about that?
Yes, absolutely. Very good question. We do in our public housing portfolio, we have elderly designated units. And on our surtax RFA that went out in July, there is a preference for those developers that are building elderly housing. We have a strong mechanism, which is called project-based vouchers, where a lot of developments are looking at it because it provides a subsidy straight to the unit. We have some information online on our website, but if you can't get the information that you're looking for, feel free to call our office at 786-469-4100, and we'll make sure we guide you in the right direction.
Terrific. If maybe somebody could put that in the chat, it would be wonderful as well. I don't know if anybody from the staff could also look at the question by Mina Kuhn about the homestead exemption. I know we need to let Madam Mayor go here. We have, go ahead.
So we have among our programs to help with the housing affordability crisis, something we've called the Mortgage Relief Program, but that's really not a great name because it also could be for any additional expenses. It's really for people who are homeowners and facing increased insurance costs, labor costs, taxes, whatever. And it's up to $1,500 per household. And we really need help to get the word out. It's really expansive with the income eligibility. And all of the data about this program is on our website, miamidade.gov/homes, HOMES. And our Office of Housing Advocacy can also guide, but we really want to help people take advantage of this little help that could be substantial for those increased costs that particularly our people on fixed income are experiencing.
I'd like to volunteer your Women's Fund one more time in the name of the brilliant board members who are here in the audience as well today. I'd like to offer that if your staff, Madam Mayor, would like to give us sort of a one-liner and the links on some of those services of getting the word out of those funds and others that you'd like to. We do have a targeted email list that goes to all of the many service providers who focus on women and girls here in Miami-Dade County. And we're happy to give this information out to their network. So we look forward to supporting our community by sharing your supports with them. So volunteering team, here we go. Madam Mayor, would you like to do any special closing comments before you go on to your next event? We're so grateful for your time.
Thank you so much, Maria. So I just am thrilled to have such a group of caring and engaged community advocates who care enough to spend the evening learning about the county budget, asking important questions, advocating for the important causes, and for the Women's Fund that is truly a leader in making sure that our women and girls get the support that they need and doing it in a really creative and innovative way. Thank you so very much. So thank you to the great members of the county staff who've been listening and learning and who've participated, and there are more of them in the wings, and to all of you and the great partners. It's been a delight. And again, just to say, I've only proposed this budget. It has to be approved. So I cannot emphasize that enough. So if you like what you hear, please participate, let your commissioners know. And if you want to advocate for more, we'll work with you on that in the future. There were quite a few great ideas. I hope that we'll be able to move forward with the outlines that we have, because we are really more limited than we were in last year's budget. And if we have to add something new, we're going to have to cut something. So just to be super clear, there's no little pot, there's no little slush fund. It will be really challenging to add significantly to this budget. So thank you very much again to everyone for joining and being part of the solution.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We'll put a slide up with that information that the mayor this is your call to action. Wonderful people here in our village square. Those are the Miami-Dade County public budget hearings. Please join us.
It was mentioned to come earlier than 5. We do know, for example, that there's been a call to action for some animal advocacy groups. And, they only allow so many people in the chambers. And so we want to be sure that people arrive in time to sign up and get a seat.
Well, I will be there at 2 p.m. because I've learned my lesson. And we won't ask everybody who's there together with all of our Women's Fund Miami-Dade cohort to speak. We'll try and keep it to a few of us, but we're going to ask all of us to stand up together if possible. So please do join us. Stay in touch with our team. Our impact agents will be there in full force on September 7th. On September 21st, unfortunately, it's the same date as the amazing launch of our Gender Equity Index, our launch. It happens to coincide with the wonderful innovation grant from the Children's Trust. So we'll be getting all of our words in on the 7th.
I'm so sorry. This is a great group for me to invite to the movies. So Saturday night, I am hosting, you have to pay, unfortunately, a movie screening at the Cosford Cinema at University of Miami. It will be My Cousin Vinny, followed by a Q&A with Renee Rodriguez, a movie critic. So if you're interested in a fun night at the movies, I'm planning to provide popcorn. And what time is it, Juan, the movie? Is it 5:30 you're supposed to come? So it's an early night?
I believe it's 6, but I'm checking.
Yeah. Anyway, 5:30 is a good time to show up. Yes.
Fantastic.
Okay.
We'll let you put that in there as well. We'll also, while we're putting that information up and confirming that, everybody knows that once a month we convene to focus a gender lens on women and girls in our county, in our community. We call them impact collaboratives. The first Thursday of every month, our health and well-being pillars are focus coming now in September. And there is so much we can learn. We're never doing anything perfunctory, cutting edge. What do we need to know? What can we do? We've got some brilliant experts to talk about bridging gaps, doula care and maternal health equity in South Florida. Join us, please, on a platform just like this one on Thursday, September 7th. And with that, I and all of our board members and all of our amazing team, our committee members, thank you all for all you do. Thanks everyone for being here, and good night.